Okay, we're going to talk about a subject that I am more than enchanted with, which is the Essential Guide on Healing and Healers. And, you know, I want to go into this subject. I find it annoying when speakers take their glasses on and off, on and off. I've become one of those. But I can't help it because I can't see you and I can't see my notes, and I thought of having one eye done that way and the other, but then I would have this. So in order for me to teach this subject, the first thing I want to say is I'm, you know, an old roadie now, and I've been at this 30 years. Though I don't look it, okay? Somebody should say that, but I'll just get to that point. Thank you, okay. But here's the thing about that. I've spent so long acquiring knowledge about what I want to share with you that this has, I no longer kind of dwell in the mysteries I used to dwell in. I've connected a lot of dots that now have become rich jewels that are shining in my head in a way that I didn't understand before. And in a sense, I feel like I'm fine wine, that after years of being crushed like grapes, as Rumi would say, I've become that. I have come to understand healing and what is worthy of passing on or exploring in a very different way. I want to take the journey into the subject out of the way I would have taught it 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, definitely 15 and 20, when I would have taught the subject in a very tiny way compared to how I approach it today. There was once a time when I would have approached this subject more angled to what I knew you wanted to know versus how I would teach it today, which is what you should know. Years ago, it would have been what you want to know about your illness or what you want to know based on how you see the world or how you experience it versus what you should know because of the world you live in, which is a very different approach. Because of the world we live in, this is what you should know, as opposed to, I live in this small world and this is all I want to know. Well, you don't live in a small world. You live in a very big world. And the world is as it is, whether or not we like it. Whether or not we want to include an understanding of the mystical laws in how we approach healing, that time has come. And that's all there's to it. Whether or not we want to include the nature of the environment into the calculations of our individual health, that time has come. And that's all there's to it. And we can no longer block out and say, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in the news. Well, that may be well and good, but it is now a factor in your health, and it's called the impact of psychic free radicals. And so it is not a matter of knowing the political details that are unfolding in another country, but you have to know that the psychic climate in this planet forms a level of psychic air that you are breathing. And that's all there's to it. And you can tell yourself that you live in this isolated country or live in this one, And that doesn't mean anything because we all breathe together. All life breathes together. My experience has been that as people have evolved in these last 70 years, and our turning point is World War II, that a attitude that I create my own reality has taken root and has formed a kind of a current in us that has been as positive as it has negative. We never talk about the negative things that have spiraled out of control in us and in our society as a result of deregulating ourselves. We don't heal because we have deregulated our dark side and we've gotten out of control, because we've simply decided to go after what we like and have ignored completely what is essential. And part of what is essential is that we've thrown out a lot of babies with bathwater. And that's one of many reasons that after 70 years of taking a look at this world of alternate healing, world of deeper, the psychic, the climate, the era of energy and the psyche that we have evolved into, we are not further along in our healing at all. As a matter of fact, we have opened up a spectrum of illnesses that have never existed before. We aren't stronger, we're more fragile. And we don't know how to get out of it. We are, in fact, so dysfunctional that we've become the drug society. We can't get through the day without calling for help in some regard. So we haven't come very far and we're not doing very well. And it is time we actually take a real good look at redefining and examining this journey of healing we think we're doing such a good job at. And approach it through avenues that we shut down simply because we didn't like them, versus saying, what's the wisdom we need to take with us? And I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. One is the sacraments of the Catholic Church. Are you kidding me? I'm getting out of here. No. No, you're not. No. Because every single form of what we did was one thing that is very characteristic, and boy did I come to this slowly on a slow burner. I don't teach religion. I have no use for religion. Zero. That to me is a costume party. But when it comes to the mystical traditions of all religions, therein lies the jewels we will talk about. And that's called your sacred anatomy. So you have physical anatomy, energy anatomy, and now your sacred anatomy. And in your sacred anatomy, you find the functioning powers of the holy within you, what your soul needs. Your soul doesn't need to go to church, but your soul needs to understand all that is sacred within you. And I'm going to give you an example. That horrible A you hear in mine is called the Chicago A. Example. And I am desperately trying to have that taken out of me. That is pure Midwest United States. I'm trying to disguise it as a British accent. Okay. One of the trends of this, it's not trend, at all. One of the characteristics of the last 60 years is that we threw out the necessity of conscience, our conscience, and we substituted a very meaningless word called consciousness. So if I said to you, say, what's in your consciousness? You'd look at me like I just asked you to swim the English Channel. I'm not sure. What's your pursuit of consciousness all about? You would say. Peace. What does that mean? Tranquility. And we'd play a word game. Because it means nothing. It is an empty mastacholi noodle. It means nothing. The word is meaningless. Zero. Has no meaning at all. What does conscience mean? Now that's a word you can get wrapped around. It means right from wrong. It means good from evil. It means your fundamental instincts. A sense in you that you were born knowing. A sense of, this is safe, this isn't. This is right, this is wrong. This is moral, this is not. Not moral as defined by a church, but moral as defined by your sense of humanity, by our inborn sense of humanity. That we are born knowing that we should treat each other a certain way, and that's all there's to it. That's all there's to it. Our human instinct, our instinct known species to species, as a member of the same species. This is where all the sacred traditions that I've studied recognized that there is something in us deeper, 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 deeper than our physicalness that is born knowing a map of how to be with each other. Beyond eating dinner, beyond physical mating, there's a way we need to be with each other that survives the quality of our lives together. That somehow if we violate that, we start the process of rapid aging and disintegration. Disintegration of our mind, disintegration of our inner being. That without putting that system right, we cannot put anything else right. That somehow there's a coreness to us. In the Jewish tradition, it is the tree of life, that there are certain fundamental ingredients: integrity, majesty, dignity. That when these become violated, negotiated, it doesn't matter what you do on the outside world. It doesn't matter how many holistic treatments you have. You should sit in front of me as a spiritual director and say, I've lost my dignity. It doesn't matter how many treatments in acupuncture. It doesn't matter. My integrity's gone. I negotiated it, and I don't have the soul in me can't heal. It's gone. Now we're talking. Now we're down to why you haven't got the engine in you that's essential to taking on major league crises. That's when I thought, where the heck have we been? We threw out the engines. We're riding a train that has no engine. No wonder it's crashing. We are on a train wreck because we threw out the engine. I'll give you a really strong example, and then we're gonna enter through another door. Like so many, I just kind of walked away from a whole lot. And then the route that I came back was through my experience with Teresa of Avila and through seizures. So let me say I didn't just decide, I think I'm going to read this book about this saint. That's not how I got in. I got in through illness, and I got in through an experience with a holy, very holy saint. And that opened a passageway to what is mysticism, what is healing, what is the soul. So when you start out on the floor unconscious, the route up is a long one. Now, I looked at the sacraments from a point of view when I wrote Anatomy of the Spirit. That was pre-Teresa of Avila, pre-mysticism, pre-where we're going to go in sacred anatomy. And I saw them as part of the chakra system and part of the seven and etc. Because isn't that an interesting coincidence? I did not examine them archetypally, which means transcendent of any religion, just transcendent of any, as an archetypal necessity. What is the need to say before a witness, I am in partnership with darkness, and I can't get out of it. I can't get out of it. I can't get out of making dark choices. I can't stop. When given an opportunity to tell the truth, I lie, and I can't stop. I negotiate the truth all the time. I take things that aren't mine, and I can't stop. I don't trust doing good things because I know if I do dark things, I know what the results will be, and that's what I trust. I don't trust doing things honestly because I won't get the results I want. I'm going to translate that symbolically. I don't trust goodness. I don't trust it. I don't trust grace. I don't trust anything, but I trust darkness. I know that if I manipulate, if I stretch the truth, if I lie, if I operate behind the scenes, I'll get what I want. Translate. I am in partnership with darkness. I trust my partnership with dark forces. I know that if I make a dark choice, my partnership with my dark partner will work for me. I do not trust the light.
Don't we have to be in the dark to turn on the light, though?
No, we don't have to be. Well, that's one way of thinking, but what you have to acknowledge is that a partnership with darkness is a partnership with a demon.
Or the unseen.
Call it what, don't play word games. That's what we've done, is play word games. We've decided to rename because it works for us. So we don't have to call it what it really is. We don't mind still saying angel, because that works for us. But what we've done is we've recalled this, something that works for us in a different way. But it is a partnership with shadow, darkness, negativity. It is a conscious decision to do dark things. And what confession is all about is the capacity to say, I'm not going to stop. I consciously know this. And it's because I don't trust the light at all. But I invoke the light when I have a crisis like healing, and then I'm going to go right back to darkness. And I only want the light when I want it. Otherwise, I'm working with the darkness. So I want a periodic involvement of the light. And what confession is I confess I'm completely addicted to the dark, and I can't get out of it. And I need help to break this because it's bad. And I'm not strong enough to break this unless there is a divine interference. Unless the divine sword comes through and breaks this, I'm not getting out. That's what it's really about. Are you with me here? And this is a high voltage understanding. This is, honest to God, this is not Catholic, this is cosmic. We're out of religion now. We're into cosmic territory. Because this is what it means to go before a medicine man. And to say to the medicine man, I need high medicine. I need big medicine, not little medicine. This is what it means to go before the grand witness that says, I'm someone who consciously chooses the dark path because I can't do I don't trust the light one. The light one calls for me to be generous, and I don't have it. The light one calls for me to answer truthfully, and I don't trust the truth. It's going to change my life, whereas saying dark things allows me to control my life, whereas truth changes my life. And if I tell little lies, it allows me to control things, but it doesn't. What you don't get is that the lies go into your biology. So if you stand in front of me and say, I've got cancer, no you don't, you got a bag full of lies. So it's not like you're controlling anything. In fact, what you are is out of control. So when I talk to you now about health, this is called sacred hardball. This is called sacred hardball. It's like, what level do you want it? If you just want to deal with chemistry, then your capacity to heal, what you've got, is exactly what the doctors will tell you. You got 6 months. If you want to deal on the next level, then maybe you can add 18 months if you kind of manage this or that. But if you want to do the major league and you say, I really want to put myself in the hands of the cosmos. I want to be able to transition and go for healing and start again. I want to reboot on this life and see if I can pull off a miracle. A miracle isn't a reward for good behavior. A miracle is a willingness to shed that way and to reboot with high voltage agreements that says, I got it. I got what I was doing and I'm not going there again. That's a miracle. You become the miracle. It isn't God saying, all right, all right, all right. You lit so many candles, your house looks like the burning of Rome. Because you haven't changed a way about you. You have to become the miracle. Okay? Are you with me here? Yes, you are. You get it. I feel like I'm choking on wires up here. Okay. Okay, so that's where we're going. Okay, I've got to take this off. As soon as I start teaching, I start warming up. Now, I've had so many people say things to me like, I'm not ready to be that conscious. I'm not ready to be that honest. I'm not ready to go there. And I think that's fair. That's very, oddly enough, that's very conscious to be that conscious of where you don't want to be that conscious. You know, I mean, it's really, I'm not ready to be that honest. I tell a story, and it's really true. Years ago when I used to do a lot of readings, which I don't, so please don't corner me, because I can't. You outnumber me, and I can't. I can't take a break and then be cornered, but I just can't. It's too much for me. And I appreciate that, and I understand it, but anyway, years ago when I used to do readings all the time, that's what I did. And I would do, 7, 8, 9 readings a day. I got a call from this guy, and he was from New Jersey. And I don't know, did you get a show here called The Sopranos? Yes. Okay. He was from that town, Elizabethtown, New Jersey. So if you remember The Sopranos, you know how they talk. Yeah, can I talk to you? Just like that. And he worked for a family like the Soprano family, he was one of those people. So, but I didn't know that. So when he called and he said, I heard you on the radio talking. I mean, like, were you BSing those people? I said, no. Who is this? So he tells me his name. He said, I want one of those readings. So anyway, so we had an appointment, and he, you know, I never asked you. My whole criteria was I needed your name, your age, and your permission. I'm not an astrologer. I don't want your birth date. So the first thing is I started to get impressions that he owned a laundromat. So I said to him, do you own a laundromat? And he said, no, I don't own no laundromat. I don't. But he was laundering money, okay? So he says to me, he says, Jesus. He says, Jesus. He says, some of the money I make, it comes through there. I got, it's not that big a deal, but I'm laundering some money. Is this phone bugged? And I said, he says, no, it started out some kind of a massage parlor. He says, and the girls come in, they do a massage. So, some of the guys, they want something more. It's not big. I don't force them. He was prostitute, he was a pimp, he was this, he was that. Anyway, the conversation went on and on and on. And at the end of it, he says to me, that's it. That's it. This is so incredible. He says, I'm turning honest. I am turning honest right here. He says, that's it. He says, I'm turning honest. You hear me? You hear me? God hears me. I'm turning honest. Okay. So I said, okay. All right then. All right. 6 weeks later, I get a call. He's driving down the highway in New Jersey. He says, hey, is that you? I said, yeah, Steve, it's me. He says, I got to tell you something. This turning honest, it limits your choices. Is that perfect? Is that perfect? That says it all. And he says, I'm still working on it. I'm still doing it. I say to these guys, I can't do that because I turned honest. And so he tells me this story. I'm just telling you. He was dealing with stolen goods. So they would, and he tells me this. He didn't even realize what he was telling me, I guess this shipment of stolen goods from, of all things, this is what made it so hilarious to me. It wasn't like he was dealing with stolen diamonds from Tiffany's, which is respectable. You know what I mean? Like, it would be such a good story. Like, I got these stolen Rolexes or these stolen. No, what does he tell me? This shipment of stolen goods, the guys delivered it to my house. And I was stolen goods. He says, yeah, truckload of toys from Toys R Us. Toys? He says, yeah, but you know what I said to them? I got out there and I said, you get out of here? He said, I've turned honest. I said, how'd that work for you? He said they thought I was crazy, but anyway. Later, he was driving down. Some guy was trying to talk him into a deal, and he said to me, I tell you what, I heard a voice. The voice said, bust his jaw. Because he said, because he's trying to make you dishonest. He said, so what did I do? I busted his jaw. He said, God told me to do it. So it all works. Somehow or other, it comes out in the wash. So his capacity to turn honest was at that level of, I can't steal. I can't steal. I can't do this. I can't steal. But his way of negotiating was still at that warrior. I'm going to have to fight my way through dishonesty. I'm going to have to beat the hell out of anybody, because they don't understand why I'm doing this. So if I have to beat them up and break their jaws to get out of this dark world, which is the Buddha first world of hell, your first chakra, I'm going to have to fight my way out of the hold darkness has on me. I'm going to have to fight my way out of this because it's not going to let me go. And there's a lot of truth to his journey. I am going to have to do physical battle with darkness it's not going to let me go. And that's what heroin is. It's not going to let me go. And what that is, and it's something you take with you from this workshop, is a different perspective on the battles you have in your life. The different perspective is that darkness comes in a lot of forms. And it doesn't let you go when you cross a line, and you know it. And you know it. When you cross a line, you know you are dealing with not the superstitious. I'm not talking superstition. I'm talking when you compromise your integrity, you compromise your conscience. And you know there was safety in one lie, you know it's easy to tell the second. And that's darkness not letting you go. It's very difficult to return to integrity once you've crossed the line. But when we talk about healing, liars don't heal. Just underline that statement. Liars do not heal. You're going to need all the meds and surgery you can get. Because when you go into yourself and you tell your body, I need you to heal, your whole sense of being says, why? You don't tell the truth. How can I trust you? You're the kind of person that says, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow, and your whole being says, liar, liar, your pants are on fire. Because you are. So your healing begins with, I need to get my inner act together. Your healing begins at the soul. I'm going to give you, we're going to start with this image. It's just, I'm going to put you in a building. Just because that's where we begin. Okay? Okay, this is called the penthouse on top, and this is the building. And here's the analogy that's just a lot of fun. Can you fix that for me? Oh, bless your soul. Okay, all of us have a building. It's just a great big huge building. And each of us lives we are each this building. We all have a building that we live in. And you know that buildings never move once they're built. But we move inside the building. We all start out on the first floor. And here's the wild thing. You can live in the building all your life and never get up to the penthouse. So you have no idea what the top view looks like from a building you've lived in all your life. You have no idea what the world looks like from a building you've lived in. So the people who live up there live in a whole different world view. Imagine that they see a river you can't see from down here, so the world they live in has a river, but not yours. With the same street address. It's an astounding reality. Their world includes a view of the ocean. You live in a world that doesn't have any water. Same building, same address. Their world, the air is not polluted, they're so high. All fresh air, and further, no street sounds. You're a prime target for burglary, street sounds, bars on the window. Totally safe. But this is the same street address, and it's your building. So imagine now it's your choice what floor you want to live on. You can live on any floor you want in your building. But, as you know, with every choice, every floor you go up, the whole vista changes of the world that you live in. And with every choice, the mortgage gets higher, more expensive. Every floor of your inner life now. How you see the world around you is going to change. Your vista gets bigger, but the rent is more expensive. Every time you go up and see the world differently and understand the world differently, it's going to cost you. You change your neighbors. You change how you understand the people around you, but you get a different view of life and you understand why there's traffic. You understand how things work differently. You get totally different life strategies because you see the whole much bigger. You understand how the municipality works, and then with every floor you get, oh my God, there's other countries. So now you get a whole perspective, and when you come down and you talk to people who only live on their first floors, they think all the problems just revolve in the neighborhood, and you try and talk to them. No, there's other countries involved and other things. They don't know what you're talking about. You want to bang your head against the wall. They don't get it. They've never seen these other countries. They don't know these other people. And pretty soon you feel like, I'm going to put my head in a toilet for 7 minutes. So you have to go up to this floor and talk to people who live and get that there are other countries and other people involved and why there's problems in this world, and that those people count too. And then one day you see yet another staircase. And you think, these staircases I'm finding in this house of mine are actually high risk. I'm not sure I want to take another one, but as soon as you find another one, you start pacing. And you think, what's up there? Because you know the rewards of taking another staircase are just unbelievable, but the price, reward, price, they are Pandora boxes. You know you're going to take that staircase. It's just when. So you go up another flight. And every flight becomes this grand, unbelievable world you never knew existed in you. A way of perceiving you never, ever, ever thought. Like, oh my God, you mean I don't have to be limited by this thing that I was just born to do one thing? You mean I really could do this? You mean I really could be this? You mean I really could? Yeah, you could, yeah. You mean I really could heal this illness, or I really could create this? Yeah. What is this impulse I'm feeling to start helping people here? Where did that come from? It came from you. You weren't ready down here. You couldn't imagine it here, but you can here. These different impulses are starting that you didn't know you had. Why start something you won't do anything about? These impulses won't start in you at this lower level. They just won't. They have to wait till you can do something about it. You're not going, think of your children. You're not going to give your children the keys to the car at age 2 and say, go have a good time. You won't do anything till they can do something about it. The same thing is true with your inner nature. Impulses don't start until you can afford to have those impulses, which doesn't mean you'll do anything about it, but they're offered. Inner instincts start when you become a certain age, when you become a certain spiritual maturity. So it starts. And the higher you go, the more your appetites become interior appetites instead of exterior. The more you become the subject of investigation instead of your outside world. Down here, it's all about what can I take? The higher you go, what can I give? What can I become? What do I have in me that is spectacular that I can develop? What do I have in me? You become your frontier. That is the difference. And then you want to enter the world differently. That is the great transition. I suspect many of you are somewhere in here. Am I correct? You wouldn't be in my classroom if you weren't. You would not be. Make sense? Yes? Okay. So, what you learn is in this lower level, when people become ill, when things go wrong and they live on the first, second, and floors, the way that people approach crises, problems, relationships, illness, anything, is, especially in the first floor, is they will go to an outside person and say, you fix me. You fix me. Because in this world, that's what it looks like. And that's the reality. That's how they understand reality. Reality is, I have been victimized by this. I was doing nothing, and then this happened to me. What have I done to deserve this? I am such a good person that somehow this came upon me, and it has assaulted me. Now, you fix me. You find the one reason why this has happened to me. And in this first floor, along with that is the mythology that the God of the first floor is an off-planet God, lives out there somewhere. And that off-planet God follows the rule books of a democracy. If you haven't broken any laws, you shouldn't be punished with an illness. Very Job-like. So you get to say, I have been a good person. I've taken care of my mom and my dad. I'm a good friend. I send Christmas cards. I don't get how I could possibly. Now, that person, so how could I? And I've gathered all my friends, and together they sing a chorus of, she doesn't deserve this. Can you hear her? Can you hear them? This is that floor. This is that floor. The floor of wondering, how could this happen to me? This is the same floor where people, when events in the world happen like tsunamis and earthquakes, the reporter says, all those innocent people. Really? Well, if we'd only known, we would have gathered them and opened the prisons and said, come on, you guilty people, you're about to die in a tsunami. Get over there. What kind of stupid way of thinking is that? But that's the first floor. Guilty people die in earthquakes, innocent people don't. And we've decided who the guilty are, because that's how we think on the first floor. It is incomprehensible for us to understand that we're simply part of nature. Nature does not distinguish us from any other animal. We are animals, part of the natural ecosystem. There are storms and there are floods and there are earthquakes and there are tsunamis. And there's loss of life. It is not innocent. It's not about innocence or guilt. It's about the ecosystem of nature. There are storms and storms take life. That's all there's to it. It isn't about being guilty, innocent, harsh, difficult, right, wrong. It is nothing but an ecology. That's all. That's all. No more than that.
For example, in the tsunami in Thailand, some children were saved in a very strange way. Sometimes people who are booked to go on an airplane crashes, and for some reason they change their flight and seen as a fateful. What happens in those instances?
Then they make it and they're saved. That's what happens. You know, what we do is we tell ourselves stories, and then we make up huge stories about how God did that. Okay, God did that. And it wasn't their time. And then we're forced to say, oops, on their time. You know, life is mystery. You know, and then we have to look at everybody who died on the plane and said, bad timing for you. But then we say things like, and you must be very special because you were saved. And I think we run the risk of making up all kinds of stories in our head about things like that. I think we can say, this is where the nature of divine mystery comes in. Because this is what I believe to be is absolute truth. And that's that this God, what God is for me is law. The equality of law. Gravity. If you jump, anyone jumps. A Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, an atheist, we fall. This world is held together by law. Disease follows laws. If you take arsenic, you die, no matter who. That's a law. That's the law of arsenic. Penicillin follows a law. There'd be no healing if there wasn't laws. Orbits of planets, tides, everything is law. And prayer follows law. You say every choice is a prayer, if you understand prayer. Because every choice sets into motion, like the law, a cause with an effect. A choice and a consequence. And no prayer will stop that. No prayer. I decide to steal $10. I steal $10 out of this lady's wallet. What's your name? What's your name? Margaret. I take $10 out of Margaret's wallet. My choice, there'll be a consequence. I take her 10 euros and I go away, and now I'm in my room and I think, I shouldn't have done that. Here's my prayer. Please put this back in her wallet. Now all the prayers in the world, all the rosaries I say, all the candles, I could start a church, a cathedral on fire with my prayers. That prayer is not going to get answered. Not because prayers don't work, but because it's foolish and it won't get answered. Because no prayer is going to break the law for me. I cannot pray to break the laws. I set a choice, I made a choice, it has a consequence. I can't pray to have my choice undone. No prayer will turn back the clock and make it as if I did not make that choice. Prayer will not break the laws for me. Are you following this? But what prayer will do is give me the courage to own up to this and set it right as I can. Now, in this impersonal universe that is completely run by laws, prayer makes it totally intimate. That prayer will be listened to, heard, and addressed. Okay, I may end up sitting next to Margaret for dinner, like, how did that happen? Or Margaret may come up to me and say, I'd like to make a donation to your charity. Here's 10 euros, making me feel really like garbage. Something will happen, because I asked for something to happen. Something will happen. So in this incredible universe of mystery, everything is impersonal and totally intimate simultaneously. So these worlds in which events happen, that 150 people are taken from a plane, but 2 people are saved. Totally impersonal and totally intimate simultaneously. Why those people, it wasn't their time. And it's as simple as that. Were they more special? No. Was it more spectacular? No. It simply wasn't their time. And there's nothing spectacular about not being your time, any more than it's spectacular that it is your time. It's just law. It's not your time. Now get out of there. It's just that from our point of view, it looks so dramatic that it works that way. But it works that way. Am I helping you understand something here? Yeah. We're the ones that are awestruck because we don't get how it works. So we sit back and go, wow, wow. And remember, Jesus said, you guys are just such idiots. I'm just like so sick of you. I edit the scripture. But so did Tom Jefferson, and he's like my hero. But he said, these and other things can you do, but you're so stupid. And I'm not doing these miracles because I need a good miracle every day before I go to sleep. Stop being razzle-dazzled. Learn the laws. He was a teacher of the laws. That's who he was. He was not a son of God. He was none of this stuff. He was married to Mary Magdalene. Get over this Jesus, half God, half man stuff. Stop it. He was a man who knew the cosmic laws. Do you know they finally found the scripture that says that? And Karen King, the great theologian from Harvard, went through all this. We'll get to that, but finally, okay, he said, I dwelleth with her. She is my wife. I said, mail that to the boys. No, it can't be true, it can't be true, it can't be true. An angel really did make her pregnant. Oh, stop it. Stop. Okay. Anyway, will it never stop? Okay, so. But we have to keep you women suppressed. We have to keep our red robes and jewels. Stop it. Stop it. So you get this, when you can look at, through laws and intimacy, total order and complete, God knows you by name. Now that's worth being in awe. How is it that this universe is so organized down to how every atom of life rolls together in perfect law, in perfect harmony? Every part of your biology is subject to law, rolls together in complete harmony. And one dysfunctional thought will tear your biology apart. Tell one dishonest thing and you tear your gut up. Go ahead, do it. Your stomach will go, eat. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Make a choice to harm another person, and you'll pay for it right through here. Yes, you will. And if that one choice is all it takes to rip you to shreds right in here, say something harsh and harmful to another person, and you'll feel it going, that's all it takes to do that kind of damage to your body. One exchange with someone, one. And then you look back in your life and think of all the anger, thoughts, and moments and harshness, and you want to know what makes you sick? Do you really? You really think it's like eating bad food all your life, or just, you really think it's one thing? It's a lifetime of making bad thoughts. It's a lifetime of accumulating that kind. It's a lifetime of treating yourself that way. It's a lifetime of thinking badly about yourself. How many of you have abused yourself that way? Okay, enough. So I just want to give us a great big huge incredible perspective about where we are right now, because it's so huge. You know, in the turning point, the reason you're here, the reason why everything that we're talking about, well, actually I'm the one talking, but everything we're talking about and sharing is really so significant. The reason why you feel an urgency around you, and you do, you feel an atmosphere of urgency or an atmosphere of curiosity. You feel things are different. Yeah, you do. You breathe it. We're breathing it. You also feel like sparks of extraordinary in the atmosphere. So we feel a couple of different things that have never existed before. Partly we feel an atmosphere of tenuous, and the other is extraordinary. We feel an atmosphere that we as human beings have never existed in before because we never have. We are at a great turning point in civilization, and that's a big word to throw out, civilization. For all the other times in history where someone could say this is a great turning point, World War II was a great turning point. It was the great turning point, but World War I, all the other times people could say this was a great turning point. Nothing is like the moment we are living. Nothing. Nothing. Because we are living at a time where every single atom of life, every single grain of sand, every species, every river, every ocean, every nation, every political system, every banking system, every church, every religion, every spiritual tradition, we are all in this together. There isn't anything or any nation or any human being or any ecological system, whether it's water, food, fresh air, land going arid, weather patterns changing, that are not participating in the mystery of what's happening to us now. No government knows what's the direction we're going. No government knows whether its currency is going to survive a year, much less a decade. None of us knows anything. The glaciers are melting. All the ways of problem solving that we have relied upon as a species, all of them can't work anymore. You do not legislate in front of a terrorist. You do not take a piece of, and what country would do that? Shall we ask the blood-bathing United States? I don't think so. Shall we ask what nation to sit in front of invisible terrorists? We couldn't get through the Olympics without being on the edge of our seats. Would there be a black widow, white widow, no widow, who knows, widow spiders? Blow up the athletes. Couldn't even imagine getting through the Olympics without the possibility of those being blown off the planets. This is the new us. This is the new us. Okay? We now have 2 popes. Could you imagine that ever? Could they imagine that ever? But it is symbolic. It is symbolic of the dark and the light. The evil and Francis of Assisi, who heard God say, Francis, rebuild my church. Go. Now. We have a collision of all the gods. Big, huge, can you imagine taking a document of legislation and going in front of the glaciers and say, you stop moving, you stop melting, you stop it, stop it, stop it. We are powerless before the change is happening before our eyes. We cannot stop poachers from killing the last of great species. Rhinos, white lions. We cannot. We can't find those demons, those bottom feeders. We are dismantling the ecosystem in front of us. And those in comfortable countries say, oh, well, it's not happening. But it is happening. It is happening. And it is all part of when we entered the nuclear age in 1944 and 45. In that second, the calculations of how we would live and who we would become changed forever. From that point on, we changed the calculations, not just in the external world, but in the two dials operating us shifted forever. And that's that what drives the human being, and this has to do with healing, longevity, your relationships, how you think, everything about us. What drives the human being is the need to create and the need to survive. We are the only people from 1944 on who've ever grown up, raised families, lived under nuclear consciousness, day to day wondering if we're going to make it, if we're going to survive. It has become normal. But it's the myth of Zeus and Prometheus and Pandora. And Prometheus stealing the fire from Pandora, from Zeus. Do you remember that story? And Zeus, being so mad, he sent Pandora's box. He was so angry that Prometheus stole the fire. Well, we stole the fire a second time. And if you look at the history of us from 1944 on, the history of the world could be written on everything, all politics, money, everything, oil, is all around who has the fire, what nation has nuclear fire, and what to do about the nations that want it. And will we survive terrorists getting it? And the politics, your nation, all nations have cameras all over the place thinking that who has it, who's sneaking it, what are we doing? Everything now, everything, our emails are watched, absolutely everything is the result of having stolen the fire in 1944. Everything. And in our instincts, how that has morphed us. It has morphed us in terms of how we have changed the way we relate to each other. The quality of relationships. Gradually through the decades, it's changed how we relate to people. The length of relationships. Becoming commitment phobic. Well, I don't know if I want to really go the distance. The quality of what we build. The quality of how long anything, well, this can let, the idea of just immediate financing, buy now, get this now, just do this now. Why? Because we may not be here. The idea of building something for a long time is no longer in our consciousness. It just isn't. Longevity is no longer part of our thinking. Create something to last 20, 25 years. Nobody thinks that way anymore. Nobody. Because time is gone. Longevity is gone. Everybody has turned and is going backwards in their thinking. Quick, Botox, don't age. Don't go this way at all. There's a terror in it. That's who we've become. No wonder people are going mad. There's a madness in us because we're terrified of this place that we live. And it's because our survival instinct, our basic survival instinct, doesn't know how to navigate this world that we live in. Can you relate to what I'm saying to you? This is the size of the crises. We don't have crises anymore. We have, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. The unthinkable. So, Carol, are you going to make us feel even worse before break, or like what? Well, what we have to understand is you're out of the range now. We are well out of the range of looking for one solution to anything. Get that out of your head. There's no one way to make you feel good about anything, except to understand there's no one way. Number two, the greatest thing I can offer you is a huge perspective on what we have become and how to think like a mystic out of a monastery with your feet on the ground, so that you are a high-functioning person in a time of great change. That includes how to sustain your health with wise choices. How to maximize healing, how to maximize the energy, the energetic, the psychic part of your healing. It's not as simple as one choice. It's just not. It's not as simple as if you know, for example, that you have problems at home, then you have to do something about them. You have to. Okay, so because we've entered the nuclear age, I was talking to you about laws. The nature of the laws is that we instantly went into darkness because we opened up the cosmic age with the intent to kill. We split the atom. And it's like nature's instinct spun us way the other way, and it cracked open the spiritual age. That's you. It cracked open this wild appetite to unlock human consciousness, to balance the dark instinct, to go insane on the planet with control and global dark power, with the awakening of what's our inner frontier. Can you relate to this? That's how the New Age was born in the 1960s. That's how that wild light just blew off the planet in the 1960s, the age of Aquarius and all that. It was the counter to that darkness. It was the counter, the holistic health movement, the Aquarian movement, the ecological movement, all of it just exploded. 1959, the Dalai Lama is forced to leave Tibet. 1962, Vatican II, the Eastern tradition comes out. The church is free. All the mystical documents pour into the mainstream. The East goes West, the West goes East, meditation, yoga, floods, this chakras. It's as if the spiritual world looks at the dark world and says, oh yeah, watch this, and pours everything. You're the result of that. We are the result of that movement of the 60s where the light says, watch this, you want to play hardball? And shoves everything, moves the papacy, moves the Dalai Lama, moves all these forces into here. We are the result of that. Now there isn't a street you can't go down, you don't see a yoga studio, you don't see this, you don't see that, you don't see this awareness of the inside. We are the counterbalance to that. That was not a coincidence. That was a high political move by the invisible forces. Absolutely, absolutely. When that side plays ball, they play ball. So, Where are we on the strategic map? What's happening? Let's have a little fun. Before I tell you we're on the rise, let's just have a little fun on terms of like how the invisible world works. I feel like I need I owe Jesus this much. Because it's delicious to know, to have something delicious in your head so you know how exciting this moment is. Because as overwhelming as it is, there will come a time when people will write about this moment you are living and wonder about us. This is the moment they will wonder about. We are the people they will write about. This is the generation and the time historians will write about the most. Like they wrote about Churchill. Like they wrote about other figures in history. This is the time. They will wonder about the decisions people made about the environment when it was so obvious they should have made other decisions. They will wonder about how stupid we were, or why we didn't see the obvious. They will wonder about the oil oligarchs and the fight, that the obvious. They will tell the stories of the people behind the scenes and the power plays that should have been exposed. They will tell the stories about us and the choices that could have been made, should have been made, and are being made. But we are the people who can make choices in our own lives, and you need to know how powerful. So let's go back into a different perspective that is so delicious. You know, when I read the scripture, and I love sacred literature. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Not because it's fairy tale, but it's probably literal. It's probably true. Like when I read the Old Testament, for example, and it says the angels came to Jacob, and they knocked on the door and they came and sat and had dinner. That probably actually happened. Just like that. Exactly like that. Jacob, the angels probably really did come and sat and had dinner. And probably when they say the angels, 140,000, joined them in battle against the Canaanites or the Ugarites, they probably did. Probably did. Because these were not people who thought symbolically. That word hadn't been created. They didn't have a symbolic consciousness in that same way. These were people who lived in a world where there was only them and God and food for each day. That was it. They didn't have to worry about, are we in a good enough neighborhood so that the neighbors are jealous of us? Like you got the tent on the right side of the camel. I mean, they didn't exactly have to worry about these things. What mattered to them was their relationship with the cosmos and with themselves, with their soul and with the cosmos. That's what mattered to them, was how that world was and with themselves. The same with the Romans and the Greeks, and how they understood there is Zeus and Jupiter and Mars, and so they were empty of that power because that power was out there, and they would look and try and figure out how that power worked. Well, then Mars had that. Mars was in charge of war, and Bacchus was abundant, and Jupiter, and they were trying to do the calculations of how power worked. Probably even before that, There was a sense of half being etheric in power, and the kind of power that would be a part of what life would become on this planet, that didn't even have a name then. Didn't even have a name. They certainly didn't have any sense of what we call time. Believe me, they didn't have employees that said, what am I worth per hour? Because that's how I know my value. They didn't have time. They had no sense of time. Time did not exist, neither as a measurement nor as a thing at all. There was no time. So this whole relationship with beingness and density, dense. They weren't dense. They were very etheric. So they were descending into a matter creature. So their mythologies of what God was way, way, way out there. Way out there. So their stories of gods out there. And then as they got a sense of power and it incarnated, what happened? Their mythologies incarnated. So they had stories of, well, Hercules, half god and half man. Uh-oh. Except he was still a myth. Ulysses, the stories of half god, half man. And then the real one comes along. He hits the ground. He's really half God, half man. He actually incarnates. He's the next generation. And what happens when the apostles go and they tell stories of this man in Israel? Is he like our half man, half God? Well, absolutely. Well, we'll see your God and we'll raise you one. And that's how they leaned on the God part. Because they had to make him compete. But he was actually physical. And that's the last story of a half man, half God person that's ever been on the planet. Those myths were done. Because the power then became part of us. We began to think, well, let's try that for ourselves. Let's try it out on ourselves. Let's incarnate, because that's where the myth went. So we descended into all of this physicalness and this power, because the whole point, the role of Jesus was, all right, what did he say? I'm putting this in you. These and other things can you do. You're it. Take charge of this power in you. This is you. This isn't about me. What did Buddha say? Stop looking at me. I'm a finger pointing to the moon. It's time for human evolution, for you guys to recognize how you're wired. This is about your wiring, not mine. Your wiring. Stop looking at me. This is about your wiring. Yours. The moment that we're living now is about activating that wiring. And it may well be that that's the reason we're watching the church crumble in front of our eyes. Because the myth of the God-man that it's built on is over. It can't be sustained anymore because it's not true. It can't be sustained. And that what will replace it as it evolves is that the sacredness of the teachings will remain. The holiness of the teachings will remain with us. The sacredness of the Mass will remain. The sacredness of the sacraments. But the need to preserve a man as a God, that will disintegrate. Because its time has come. The division between religions hopefully will disintegrate, not in our generation, but the truths of the sacred teachings that empower you, what you need to learn about Buddhism, that empowers you, all the sacred teachings that are already written in your soul. On this high flower up here, one of the truths that people can't bear to see is that the truths of Buddhism are already in you. The truths of every holy tradition are already in you. So you say, I don't want to look at that. Well, they're already in you, so you can't come up to this floor. But it's already in you. And the more you open yourself to, like the teachings of the Tao, whenever you go too far in one direction, life will send you in the other. That's Taoism. So if I said to you, can I teach you Taoism? No, I can't bear that word. But it's already in you. It's already in you. Learning the laws, these are the laws of sacred nature, sacred anatomy. This is how we should learn now. This is the holy part of yourself, devoid of mythologies that separate you from your humanity and from each other. Now, do you have any questions before I send us off for a tea break? Yes?
When you say church, do you mean all religions?
Of course I do. When I say church, do I mean, oh, I'm not fussy. I'm against them all. It's not being against them. It's that if you understand the nature of God, if any religion causes harm to another human being, that should be your first instinct. It's trouble. If it causes a division, if it causes a sense of superiority, that should be your first instinct. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. How can a God dwell here? Finally, something that you really have to pay attention to, which is in keeping with the reality that the time has come for that whole thing to dismantle. One of the things that makes this moment that we are living so extraordinary is that we are on it's not even the nonsense in all of these churches that is their own demise. Their own demise is going to happen organically. We're on the verge of joining the galactic community, of becoming part of the realization that life exists everywhere. Everywhere. What could be more preposterous than thinking this is the only planet with what is more ridiculous? What is more ridiculous? That's like living on Fire Island off New York and declaring that there's no other life on this earth because you have said it so. This is an abundantly populated universe. And to think that we on this tiny little planet, this tiny little planet is the only thing that's populated. Are you crazy? Are we nuts? That's number one. Number two, that we have the God. Oh my. Number three, that not only do we have a God, but we Christians are the ones. And of all the Christians, we Catholics are the ones. And we have to tell everybody in this whole galaxy that, in this whole billions of galaxies, the amount of missionaries we're going to need, well, I can't imagine. How are they ever going to know that? That we, our little Catholic, our little bitty Jesus, did it all in Israel. I could just see them in some galaxy in Andromedan saying, where? When? And they may be one of the tall grays who don't even look remotely like us, saying, and he saved us too? When? 2,000 Earth years away? Wow, let's just go zoom over there. And where the hell is Israel? What, am I kind of putting it in perspective? Just a little bit? Maybe a tiny bit?
Very much.
Okay, so that what you ought to do is treat yourself to the the Hubble telescope. Look at the universe and the photographs of the Hubble telescope. Truly. Go out in the Hubble telescope. I have them on my phone. Look at the galaxies. Take a breath, look at the galaxies, and go out there with the sombrero galaxy. Just let them pour into you. Put on Bach or something delicious and float through the galaxy. And then possibly imagine, come back to this planet and then sit down and say, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. We are already seeing this. And so we are on the verge of finally humbling up and getting a grip on our own story fairy tales. Where we have got to finally, and that's one of the reasons fundamentalism has risen, because it can't bear to smell its own demise. You will not kill us. Oh, but I can't wait. Oh, I want a front row ticket. And that's what that's all about. And when you think about all the harm in God's name that was done by all the leading religions, in the name of God, for the sake of money, power, just look and say, it's high time. It's high time. This is justice. Okay.